So this new Avengers team now has to go out on a full-on war against this new version of the Illuminati. And honestly, this evil version of the Illuminati is pretty pathetic and weak compared to the originals. Because as we pick up in the destroyed remains of the building after Blackbolt just screamed, yeah, everything is destroyed for a little while, even the hill and mountainside completely caved in. But this is nothing compared to what the real Blackbolt would have been able to do if he fully screamed at the top of his lungs. We even see the Jackal's decapitated and severed head, or at least what we'd assume to be the original Jackal, because in a flashback, we see the Jackal communicating with this mysterious figure who gave him the resources and cloning genetic material to make this Illuminati team, or as they're called, the Kill Illuminati, which is literally just the name of the team, Illuminati with the word kill in front of it. Yeah, it's as bad as a name as you think it is. But the Jackal was tasked with creating the clones of these very popular and powerful heroes for whatever reason, we're not too sure now, but his secret employer tells him to not screw this up. Whereas as we cut over and see in the present, things pretty obviously got screwed up. Because as a scientist, the Jackal was pretty much a one-hit wonder. His best and most notable feat was cloning Spider-Man all those years ago with Ben Reilly and Kane and whatever have you during the Clone Saga. For here though, there's no real reason to think why the Jackal should have been qualified to clone, or at least make good clones, of the Illuminati or these different heroes. Frankly, because he wasn't. As you will see, these half-baked clones are kind of, not stupid, but, they're not fully there. Even with their abilities, they don't seem to be fully as powerful as their original counterparts. Though they're close enough where the heroes can't really take them down as easily, as while Wolverine, Laura Kinney, is fighting Iron Man, suddenly Black Panther, his clone, comes into the fold and one-shots her with what I'd assume to be some sort of vibranium weaponry or sword. But as he does, he turns to Iron Man, telling him not to stop him, because now they are finally free from the Jackal's captivity, and he is going to claim this world as his hunting ground and do whatever an evil Black Panther would want to do, world domination or whatever have you. Though moving over with Bucky, the seemingly leader of this new team, this new Avengers team, as they're going to soon be known as, yeah, he is in for a bad matchup as Mr. Fantastic slowly slithers his way and fully ensnares the Winter Soldier. It's almost horrific in the way he is like contracting over him like a snake. And unless you have like a high degree of super strength or some other ability like that, it's really no way to get out of a hold like this, because you can't really stretch him off you because he would just stretch back. And he can tighten himself as he slowly constricts and almost squeezing the life out of the Winter Soldier. But before he can just fully end him there, he is shot multiple times by Black Widow coming in to rescue him. Now obviously this doesn't kill him as the bullets don't penetrate his rubbery skin, but the pain is enough to momentarily down him for a second. And this 1 second is all the Kill Illuminati needs to form together and regroup on their own. Now I'm not sure if this is intentional because they're supposed to be half-baked and not fully completed clones, as you can see by their very designs, but even the way that some of them speak, specifically in this case being Iron Man, it's very out of character. Like he literally goes up to hold Mr. Fantastic's body. As he regains his strength from being shot, he says, "Focus on me, bro. If these heroes spill the beans about us, we're cooked." Which I don't know, that dialogue just doesn't fit Iron Man. Though this is a unstable clone of his, so I guess it's passable for now. Either way, this group here is obviously a very far cry from the original group in any stretch of the imagination. And Namor should know because he was a part of them. As he comes barreling in, now the heroes regrouping on their own to finally fight them as best they can. Which, as I said before, they don't seem to be quite as powerful, even though it is stated they are, as the originals, because someone like Professor X, who his evil version here is named Professor Extinction, which that's actually a cool name, versus some of the other ones. But realistically, someone with his telepathic abilities, he will be able to shut down the minds of everybody here, save for maybe Namor. It's not even counting Doctor Strange and his mastery over the magical abilities, and so on and so forth. But eventually, the Professor Extinction finally does something useful, getting Black Widow in a headlock and starts to use his abilities to fully wipe and drain Black Widow's mind. But before he is successful, suddenly he is shot and blindsided by a new introduction of Clea, the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension, so someone else who's very proficient in magic and the mystic arts. In which the only real reason she's here is because she felt the cosmic tingle, if you will, of another Doctor Strange, this clone here. She thinking it's actually the real Strange who was off in Asgard doing whatever after he lost the title to Doctor Doom of being the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. She came here to investigate and find out what's really going on. Of course, being angry that her husband has been defiled and an abomination of a clone has been made with his DNA. But before she can stop this Doctor Strange clone, Blackbolt comes screaming in, using his power to distract Clea as the Doctor Strange and Professor Extinction teleport out of there. Now, the same thing with Blackbolt, after using that giant giant attack before, it seems like his powers or his voice isn't at full capacity as it was before, which is a limitation that the original Blackbolt never had. He could just constantly keep screaming and sending out that full power shockwaves, but that's just something that this clone here can't do, and it's going to be its downfall as, you just don't get to tick off someone as powerful as a Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension and just be willy-nilly about it as Clea starts to use her magic in a very simple but very strategically good way, using a portal and just cutting his head off, effectively instantly killing him, which honestly, if you think about it, this one move right here could take out so many bad guys in a swift and almost uncounterable manner. Like, how do you counter your head being shoved into a portal, unless you know magic, but your head just being shoved into a portal and decapitated before you even have any time to react at all? It's pretty OP if you think about it. But with all of that said, that only really leaves one member of this evil Illuminati team left on the battlefield, Iron Man, who was swiftly captured by Clea using her magic. Of course, the other heroes telling him to power down, surrender, give up, etc. But there's another person on the field who is equally as angry as Clea here, and it's Namor, as he just swoops in, taking Tony's body and flying off. Now, Namor and Tony have a little bit of a history, as Namor here and the real Tony don't really like each other too much, even them trying to kill each other on occasion or two. But here, with this being a clone and an evil one at that, Namor really has no reason to hold back and no reason to not kill this Tony right here, where he stands, or flies more accurately. And it's even worse because Tony goes on to taunt Namor, saying that his clone is as superior, overpowering, and more powerful than Namor's himself. Well, what do you get when you take an enraged Atlantean flying and hovering over a body of water? Well, you go for a little swim, as Namor does exactly that, stabbing Iron Man through the chest and plunging him deep into the waters down below, which is something that Namor tried to do to the real Tony Stark before, yet obviously not successfully. Here though, that's an entirely different story, as this Tony loses. He dies here, he drowns, Namor leaving his body to plummet to the bottom of the ocean and be done with him, be done with this imperfect abomination of an otherwise respectable hero. Though before he fully dies, he sends a message out to Reed Richards telling him to avenge him, to make them pay for what we are, and to remake the world in their own twisted image, which just goes to clue you in a little bit of what these Kill Illuminati team is trying to achieve. But with the threat for now pretty taken care of, Blackbolt was decapitated and died, Iron Man drowned and died, and the rest of them escaped into whatever devices and plans they're scheming. The heroes here decide to fully regroup and figure out what to do now, because originally they didn't come here for any of this. They came here just to liberate the town and the people trapped here, not uncover a giant cloning conspiracy and hero experiment going on here. And so because of this, they're barely a team. Their team dynamics are pretty poor, specifically referring to Namor and Laura, who Namor even calls Laura a pretender, a fake Wolverine, which I know in the last video a lot of people were complaining about the same thing, not really considering Laura here a real Wolverine or someone better than Logan, which I can kind of agree to an extent. But at the same time, she's literally his daughter, if you will. I'm not sure if that's still canon that she's a clone, but I'd imagine the actual genetic child of Wolverine has more claim to the mantle of Wolverine more than anybody else. Now, whether she's better than Logan or a more fitting pick here is a whole other conversation. Regardless though, they can't be fighting amongst themselves because there are bigger fish to fry, specifically in the fact that there's a rogue Reed Richards, the same Reed Richards who was the smartest man on the earth and potentially even the Marvel universe. Like, I'm not too sure if you guys know, you can clarify or correct me, but is there any alien, any off-world species or person smarter than Reed Richards? Like, surely there's people who can rival his intelligence. Dr. Doom is one of them, but someone above Reed Richards that's not like omniscient and knows everything, purely in intellect. To my knowledge, I don't believe so, but I could be wrong, of course. But because of the untapped potential danger that a mentally unstable and evil Reed Richards could cause, Bucky, being the makeshift leader, goes on to set some ground rules for this team here. 2 rules, in fact. 1, they strike first. They can't just sit around and wait for the bad guys to do something and then react. They have to be on it before anything happens in the first place. And secondly, they always have to have each other's backs, so that means no more fighting amongst themselves and bickering and whatever, in which everybody here present eventually agrees, though they quickly find out that, yeah, this team that they have here isn't enough. They're going to need more. Specifically, they need a genius of their own. Namor, of course, not wanting to involve anybody from the real Illuminati, meaning no Iron Man, no Black Panther, Reed Richards, etc. I'm not even sure what happened with Blackbolt. Is he still on the other side of the moon with the other Inhumans? Marvel just kind of swept him under the rug. Regardless, it only leaves a handful more geniuses within the superhero community that they have full access to. So Bucky goes to do just that. Cutting over to a very mysterious place, which will all make sense in a second, we see him and Clea communicate with this stranger. This stranger being none other than Bruce Banner himself, in which you can clearly see that, yeah, Bruce has seen better days, as he is currently locked up within Hulk space, which is kind of like imprisoned inside of the Hulk's mind, as him and Dr. Bruce Banner are kind of separate entities at this point. But all you really need to know is Bruce Banner is being locked up and imprisoned by the Hulk in this mindscape. Though, of course, the heroes here are going to need his intellect. You know, he's one of the smartest Avengers, so of course they're going to need him. Though Bruce asks them, how did they even get in here? This realm is controlled by the Hulk. Of course, they just answer that they have him preoccupied, which probably is just something magic related, as that can just do anything and you can wave it away, or just magic solve the problem. Well, they are here to fully recruit Bruce, and by extension, eventually the Hulk, I would assume, to this new Avengers team. In which, yeah, it's good if he agrees because they are going to need all the help they can get. Though it also leaves the issue of having a Hulk on your team, and you can ask the original Avengers that that's not always the best of options, as he is pretty uncontrollable and pretty strong at that. Though, as always, this was the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.